as we'll need them to blow open this cave. Inside, you'll find the worst parent to ever exist, as she somehow lost sight of not 1, not 50, but 100 children. I mean, how is that even fucking possible? Either way, I spent the next hour or so hunting down her children, only to find out that she won't upgrade our items unless we own them.
Well, this was a waste of time.
Not wanting to waste any more time, I hastily made my way over to the House of Gales, which proved to be just as easy as the Eastern Palace. Most of the enemies here still die in one hit, and while there were a good few instances that demonstrated negative IQ, I was able to make my way to the boss room without much struggle. Behind this door, though, was an entity beyond anyone's expectations. I mean, who expected this guy to be this easy? He doesn't even do any direct damage. Instead, he's supposed to knock you off the edge like some kind of Mulder wannabe. The only problem is fall damage isn't increased in hero mode, nor do we have to restart the fight each time we fall. This results in a rather lackluster fight, where we slowly blind the poor bugger. To my horror, I adventure saw us tackling Death Mountain next. Annoying ass enemies are one thing, but this place has got to be one of the only regions in Hyrule that actually lives up to its name. Everything here wants to kill you, and I mean everything. Thankfully, there are multiple heart pieces and even a random fairy fountain along the way. And speaking of things along the way, before embarking on this treacherous climb, I had stumbled across a note in a bottle. Apparently some idiot went climbing up Death Mountain without any gear, and surprise surprise, he ended up hurt. That said, rather than getting help, all this dude needs is some premium milk. As a milk lover myself, I can't actually fault his priorities, and after grabbing some from the local bar, I began the treacherous climb up the mountain. Now, as I previously stated, this isn't your typical mountain. And worse yet, this motherfucker had somehow got himself stuck on the worst part of the mountain. See, to get to this guy, I'd have to sneak around a few Lynels, the strongest enemies in the entire game. Now, normally I'd hear this and say, fuck that, but there's just something about hero mode and how it inflates one's ego to the point where you think you're invincible. I learned soon after that I most definitely was not.
What? I died in one hit.
Luckily, the fairy I had in prison saved the day, and I was able to make it onto the ledge where this adventurer lay waiting. As Lancy gives us our third bottle, which I immediately filled with some red bokoblin blood. With that said, it was time to take on the Tower of Hera, the most lethal dungeon yet. That said, there's quite a few ways to cheese your way through it. Many Moldams, for example, can be rather annoying because of their rapid and inconsistent movement patterns. None of that really matters though when you can just throw bombs at them from up high. The dungeon also features a few auto-scroll sections where you need to avoid certain obstacles along the way. These, however, can be blocked with your shield, making them far less threatening. The biggest challenge, however, has to be the dungeon boss, Molder. This fucking worm has always been an annoying boss to face, mainly because he won't stop moving. It's almost impossible to predict which way he'll turn at times, and in hero mode, this guy does 4 hearts of damage a hit. Being the frugal dumbass that I am, I held off on using my second potion of bokoblin blood, as I truly believed in my heart that I could get the last hit off without eating it.
You're not that guy, pal, trust me. You're not that guy.
In the span of about 20 minutes, I had been humbled twice. Even with 2 blood potions and a fairy, I barely managed to get by on this one, which didn't fill me with confidence going forward. Regardless, with our final pendant collected, we pulled the legendary Master Sword out of its pedestal, and using it we tore our way through Hyrule. Okay, in reality, this was a rough time. Hyrule Castle is full to the brim with some of the toughest enemies yet. The ball and chain trooper alone had me strapped and bent over, and trust me when I say that 4 hearts of damage isn't nearly enough to account for where that spike ball entered. By the time I had reached the latter half of the castle, I was completely out of bokoblin blood, meaning I'd have to deal with Yuga with whatever life I had left. What? Did you really think this guy was going to be hard? Having been embarrassed once again, Yuga makes a run for it, slipping himself into the world of Lorule. Not wanting to pass up the opportunity of slipping into a crack, we follow suit. But it quickly became apparent that this was a terrible idea, as we not only witness Yuga go Super Saiyan, but we also get a sneak peek of how Zelda would look if she partook in cosplay.
Wow.
These events were so shocking that we end up collapsing, only to awake on the worst substitute for a bed ever. It's around this point where the game really opens up, as we can essentially complete the remaining dungeons in any order that we wish. That being said, there are certainly routes that are far more efficient than others, and it might surprise you to know that having a good strategy here is absolutely crucial, in the same way that having an extraordinary CRM app is pivotal when it comes to dominating your competition in sales and revenue potential. Luckily for us, Ravio here stocks one of the greatest CRM apps to ever exist, and unlike the rest of his apparatus, this one's completely free to use. With Odoo CRM, you're able to do anything and everything. From tracking leads to creating quotations and most importantly, closing those spicy opportunities. Forget Zelda. Check out this majestic pipeline, designed to make your job effortless. The CRM pipeline lists each opportunity as a card, and with each card coming equipped with all the essential information, it makes processing and forecasting expected revenues accessible to all. CRM's true talent, however, lies within its integrated and effortless communication capabilities. Whether it's scheduling calls and meetings or sending messages regarding specific quotations via email or WhatsApp, all of it can be done without ever having to leave the app. So, what are you waiting for? Let Odoo CRM take care of the tedious and stressful aspects of sales and watch as your business closes deals even Ravio would be jealous of. Be sure to click my link in the description below to start using CRM today. It's free to use as your first app, so there's no harm in giving it a shot. Thanks again to Odoo for sponsoring this video. Now that we have access to Lorule, there's quite a few things we can collect here. We have to be careful though, as the enemies here make the ones back in Hyrule look like walking teabags, not to mention their damage.
Dude, wait, it's still gone. Oh my fucking god.
In a panic, I spent the next hour or so collecting some more heart pieces. Out of all of them though, this baseball one was by far the hardest. With another heart to our name, it was finally time to venture into the thief's hideout. By some miracle, we're not immediately caught out by this guard, who instead gives us free reign over the area. Link, being the man that he is, immediately notices the smoking hot babe locked up down below. Looks like the sage's portrait won't be the only thing we'll be stealing from this dungeon. Anyway, the reason I chose to do this dungeon first was because it's probably the easiest out of the whole bunch. Additionally, in order to gain access to another dungeon, we'll need to free this particular sage as he still possesses the sand rod. Now, you're probably wondering, what makes this dungeon the easiest? Well, what if I just show you? This dungeon also contains our first Master Ore, which is a pivotal item with regards to upgrading the Master Sword. The only threat in this entire dungeon was, of course, the boss. Staleblind, unlike his name suggests, can most definitely see us as he constantly tries to swipe away at us. His first phase is rather simple, but where it gets tricky is when he takes up half the arena by spinning around. His damage output is worrying, and it gets even worse in his final phase. This dude willingly pulls his own head off and then just throws it around the room. The one saving grace to this move is that the main body has no idea what the fuck to do, so it'll randomly slash at the ground every now and then. The flying head, while annoying to avoid, only deals 2 hearts of damage, meaning it's not nearly as lethal as the main body. Amazed by our sword skills, the thief invites us into our house.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
Well, 1 sage down, 6 to go. Before heading off to our next dungeon, however, I paid a quick visit to Maiamai, as I wanted her to upgrade my bombs. I then locked in and snuck my way around the Dark Palace maze. I guess you could say that I was pretty solid. Link. Get it? Because I'm sneaking around like Solid Snake? Solid Link? It's been a long day. Anyway, the Dark Palace is considerably tougher than these thieves' hideout. It contains tougher enemies, some of which you can't even see. Not only that, but pretty much everything here does 4 hearts of damage, which is quite worrying. That said, I did come prepared. Remember those upgraded bombs? Well, they absolutely obliterate most of the enemies in here. The main reason I upgraded my bombs though was because of the beast lurking in the depths. Now, even with the upgraded bombs, the Germasaur King is no joke. His attacks deal a significant amount of damage, and his Shadow Rush attack is extremely hard to avoid. What I hadn't realised, however, was that this guy had his own gravitational pull. I know it looked like I just charged straight into him there, but I swear, that was the game. That wasn't me. With copium filling my lungs, I did manage to beat him shortly after. With another sage saved, I made my way over to the blacksmith in Hyrule. One thing I did forget to mention was that the Dark Palace contained another Master Ore, and with 2 of these in our possession, we're able to upgrade our Master Sword to level 2, which doubles its damage going forward. Now here's where things got a bit tricky, as there were 2 dungeons I considered next. On the one hand, there's the Swamp Palace, which contains an item that halves all the damage you take. On the other hand, there's the Desert Palace, which contains the Titan Mitts. Now, considering these mitts make getting to the Swamp Palace extremely easy, you'd think this would be an easy choice. The only problem is that the boss lurking in the Desert Palace just so happens to be my most hated boss by far. After 3 or so coin flips, none of which landed on the Swamp Palace, I paid Wario another visit where I purchased the Sand Rod outright. I immediately upgraded this bad boy as it will make the fight against the dungeon boss far more pleasant, or at least I hoped it would. To my surprise, the actual dungeon itself was fairly easy, and while there were a few close calls, I'd become a master at using skull respawns for hearts. Having spent a good few minutes composing myself, I slipped through yet another crack only to come face to face with this disgusting creature. What makes Zaganaga so annoying is the fact that you have to constantly move around the place to avoid his attacks. He constantly summons spearheads that fly around the place, and he's always moving around himself. If he's feeling up to it, he'll even shoot his massive load at us. These attacks wouldn't be so bad if we were fighting on the ground, but in this fight, we're fighting on top of quicksand, meaning we constantly have to create platforms with our sand rod, not only to avoid the attacks, but to get close enough to even hit him. With everything that's going on in this fight, it's not unusual to end up in the quicksand, which not only damages us, but also sapped away our sense of touch. Don't ask me how, it just did. Thank God I upgraded the sand rod before taking this guy on. If I hadn't, then our